is this still going on? This verse been going for way too long. If you ain't blind, you can see that this is wrong. And I won't comply. Not me, no way.
Good morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. Sorry about the terrible lighting and the backlighting and the shadowed face and all of that other stuff. There's nothing I can do about it. I don't know how to turn this light on, and I don't want to close that door because if I close the door, the internet goes away completely. So we're kind of stuck between a dim light and an open door. Anyway, regardless, that is how this is going to go, and I'm okay with that. I'm all right with that. We've got a lot to talk about. Censorship of free speech is the new black. The United Nations is going after citizens for conspiracy theories defined by them, but they haven't been really reliable. Reliable is probably not the right word, but honest or trustworthy or anything like that. Any reason you would trust a group. The UN doesn't have that for me, and telling citizens to police other citizens online for their conspiracy theories is dastardly. It's terrible. I don't like this idea whatsoever. I think that it is. I don't know that it's going to fail because it seems like after COVID, people really enjoyed having that power, right? The little dictators in all of those people who had that in them really came shining out, and all that tiny little power they had, if they're Western University decision maker or something to that effect, to enable jab mandates or anything like that, they gleefully took advantage of that and then discriminated against people that they decided were worthy of that discrimination. It's unbelievable what people became, and now it looks like the United Nations anyway is they took note and they're trying to exploit that. And that's scary. That's very, very scary. Climate change. There's a mayor of Lethbridge. He shared a tweet that talked about, shared an article that talked about how climate change was not a thing, not something that needed to be worried about. And he's getting backlash from that. Global News, of course, is writing an article about that. Energy policies. We've got Pakistani people who are burning their energy bills, and we've got British people who are stopping the automatic withdrawal of payments for energy bills because they don't believe that the price increases are valid. And so a lot is going on. We're going to get to all of it in due course. And sorry, the management of this show is just a little bit more difficult on the configuration I've got right now, but I think we're all good, so I'm going to get into it. If you want to support the show, head over to CanadaPoly.com. You can check out there's a truck going by. Sorry. You can check out the forwards. They're free. You can do a one-time payment or a monthly subscription. You can check out my book to find out what happened to the YouTube channel. You can sign up for Kitchen Table Talks, which will return. And if you don't want to send me money, but you do want to support the show, click on the Amazon link there. If you shop at Amazon, you can check that out if you want to do that. But no pressure, of course. Let's talk about a devastating lockdowns. Actually, this is in the wrong order, so hold on. I've got to fix this. This one was out of order, so hold on. All right, off to a wonderful start already, but now I think I've got it. Let's start talking about the UN. Leslyn Lewis is talking about, felt gaslit by your government this past year? You're not alone. And it's not an accident. The United Nations has an initiative to stop conspiracy theories by private citizens, essentially policing each other's speech. And she has a whole little write-up on it on her website. And I thought the beginning was pretty good, so I'll read it to you. Here's Leslyn's website. The United Nations is fueling a misinformation campaign that they cleverly disguise as a war on conspiracy theories. The UN's target is you, the citizen. The United Nations has put a framework for people to assess and ultimately undermine the legitimate questions that people are asking of their governments by labeling these questions as conspiracy theories. In fact, it's a clear agenda to control thought by pitting citizens against each other and to police the thoughts of their neighbors. We've seen this tactic used by our own government to avoid answering the uncomfortable questions that hold them accountable. It's textbook gaslighting, a way of manipulating and bullying people with feelings of shame by getting them to think they're the problem, they're crazy, or worse, that they're the ones spreading conspiracy theories. And that's exactly what they're trying to do. And it's incredible because it works so well. Miss Lewis's blog links to the UNESCO, the UN page on this, and it says, "Think before sharing, stop the spread of conspiracy theories." And the big quote here, it says, "Conspiracy theories cause real harm to people, to their health, and also to their physical safety. They amplify and legitimize misconceptions about the pandemic and reinforce stereotypes which can fuel violence and violent extremist ideologies." So don't ask any uncomfortable questions, because you might legitimize a misconception about the pandemic that turns out to be right, by the way. But that's a conspiracy theory until we tell you that it is Trump's fault. Wait for it, we'll get there. But yeah, they're definitely going to try and blame Donald Trump for the vaccine, which, I mean, of course they are. I've said from the beginning, and there was a thing shared, and I reshared it on Twitter today. I don't think I'm going to share, I'm going to link to it here. But it was talking about, it was shared in October 2020, and it basically said the mega style patriots, anybody patriotic would be targeted post Trump, including Trump himself. And I said that they're going to do their best to arrest him. They're going to try and misrepresent what's happened through the last few Trump years as Donald Trump committing whatever kind of treason or whatever, and they're going to try and arrest him and make it so that he can never impact their politics again. And that's exactly what we're seeing. And I'm not gloating about being right. I'd much rather be wrong. But here we are. We've got reality to deal with. We're going to look at the infographic in just a minute. Here's the infographic, but if you look at the UN link, there's many infographics. This is just one of them. This is Andy Lee sharing this one. She says, "The UN has released its framework for handling conspiracy theories. Quote, the UNESCO campaign is implemented jointly with the European Commission and with Twitter. Bring on the global thought police." And here it is again, conspiracy theories, the link to COVID-19. "Be warned, the COVID-19 pandemic has seen a rise in harmful and misleading conspiracy theories. It may be difficult to recognize them or know how best to deal with them." The big yellow quote in the middle says, "Be careful, conspiracy theories are deceptive. They ignore scientific evidence and falsely blame individuals and groups that are not responsible for the pandemic. Do not share them." What? The red flags I thought were interesting. They claim the virus was artificially created, e.g. in a laboratory, by people with a specific intent, e.g. reducing world population. I don't think I've ever said either of those things. I've said that the theories out there are that it was created in a lab, conveniently across the street from a wet market that got blamed for the bat soup or whatever that kicked this whole thing off. I don't think I've ever explicitly said reducing world population is the goal, although I've shown you videos of Bill Gates talking about it in the context of having a vaccine reduces the world population. He said that at a TED Talk. And as far as conspiracy theories with regards to the harm that the vaccine is doing now, but I don't know that that's exactly what's happening right now, although is the birth rate and the death rate, how equal are they right now? I think currently the births are outpacing the deaths, and so the human population hasn't fallen yet. So if there's a depopulation agenda, it's not very good. But that's not to say that nefarious things aren't afoot. Who knows? But even talking about that is not okay, according to the United Nations infographic. Very interesting. Claims that the virus was spread intentionally or its natural spread artificially augmented to harm as many people as possible through 5G signals. I don't know that anything... I don't know how, if you believe that this is spread through 5G signals, that's more harmful than whatever else. How is that the most pressing issue? Don't we need to secure our food? Don't we need to secure our energy rather than stop talking about conspiracy theories? Shouldn't the United Nations be focusing? Aren't there hundreds of millions of starving people in the world somewhere? Shouldn't the United Nations be focused on that rather than what the West thinks about a political problem? It just seems weird to me, don't you think? Right? Don't you think that the United Nations should have something better to do than play politics in all of the world's countries? Danny says Google begins to fight disinformation about Ukrainian refugees in EU countries. This is reported by Reuters, she says. Next week, the fight will begin in the first 3 countries, in Poland, Slovakia, and the Czech Republic. The rest of the world is on the agenda. And we're going to talk about the dead internet theory, and I found some other people were sending me Free Spoke is another Google alternative, but they said they could only get to page 50 on Free Spoke and until they gave up and couldn't find any more results. So 50 times 10 is 500, right? And the whole idea that 500 results is equal to billions of results, and these 500 results that we found are identical to all the other billions of results we found on anything, right? Pancakes, waffles, any other conspiracy theory you want to talk about. Pancakes is the one I usually use, and on a pancake search, I'm getting to page 17 on everything I've tried. I haven't gone through Free Spoke yet, but it is offensive to our intelligence to tell us that there are billions of results when you return 500 results or less. That's ridiculous, and it's unbelievable that it's happening, and nobody seems to care that it's happening or really have any idea what to do about it. How easy is it to start up your own Google? All you need is some search spiders, right? Buy me some spiders. Let's get some spiders. I'm going to buy some search spiders on eBay. I know you can't do this, but you could. I mean, you can go to Upwork, and I could find somebody to make me some indexing robots that were kind of similar to Google, more like Alta Vista. But still, you could do this. Okay, maybe you couldn't do this. Maybe you could. I don't know. I don't know if I could do it. It's an interesting thought experiment. But you would think that the biggest search engine in the world would want to maintain its market share through giving a robust search result. And it would say, listen, we've got billions of results. You want to see billions of results? Here's the first million results. And you can scroll through the first million results. We won't even break it up. We'll load it on a single page, million results. There you go. Bam. It's all text, million results in whatever seconds. That'd be great, right? Like, that's a robust search engine. And then if you want to go to the next million results, you just click next, and the next million, and the next. So the top 500 from the 7th million, I should be able to get into Google that robustly, in that robust a way. Okay, programmers, build me an indexing robot that does that. That's different than Google. First million, second million, third million, fourth million, whatever you want, right? If you are saying there's 700 million, I should be able to choose the million and see the top 500 hits like that. Probably on an all-text page. Drop it down. Do it. Let's go, right? The idea is worth nothing until you can implement it, right? So there you go. But it would be very, very interesting to me to see a search engine to compete with Google, but they won't let that happen. Why won't they let that happen? Because they're de-indexing the web to control people's perception of reality. Because if there's no word for freedom, in North Korean, I guess, there's no word for freedom if you believe the people who have escaped North Korea. So always have some skepticism with you. And the concept itself is foreign, right? You have to explain the concept to even come up with a way to describe it. If you don't get taught the concept, if you don't understand the concept in the first place, there's not going to be a word for it, right? And so that's, insidious. Google is getting into the fight for disinformation. So we definitely desperately need a competitor to Google. And it's not just Google, right? The wheels of injustice are being greased at CRTC, which is supposed to be taking over the internet sometime soon in Canada, right? Coming soon to a free country near you. Yikes. Holly Doan is reporting, Mr. Scott wrote that he paid for his own drink. Ethics Canada clears the CRTC CEO Ian Scott of any wrongdoing in a meeting privately with telecom lobbyists in an Ottawa bar. So here's what's going to happen. We're going to delist most of the listings on Google, but don't worry, Google will deliver pretty good results and almost nobody will notice this. And then once all of those things are delisted, then we'll start shaping the population's theory or thoughts and opinions on what's happening. And you will always rule on the side of who? You guys, lobbyists, you guys. Thanks for the drink. I'll pay for this one. Charlie Murray says, this is from an editorial announcing Nature Human Behavior's decision to censor scientific results, however rigorous, that do not conform to a political narrative. It's hard to exaggerate the scientific insanity this represents. So it's not just Google. It's not just Twitter. It's not just the CRTC and your government, although I can't prove that the CRTC's chair and CEO is being lobbied by the people he's having drinks with, lobbyists that he's having drinks with. I can't prove that that's what's happening. Maybe he's just having a friendly drink with a guy, and it has nothing to do with the massive censorship that's rolling out across the West. Probably it's nothing. Ignore it. It's probably a complete conspiracy. Excuse me, coincidence. Right, totally. But if you were to think maybe these coincidences were more than just coincidences, it's not just telecoms, big tech, governments. It's now science as well that is kowtowing and adhering to a political narrative that is not driven by the public or the population. They don't want what's happening. What they want is actual representation and people who will listen to them and stop the madness. But instead, what they're getting is we will not conform to scientific result. We will not conform to any decisions that go against our political narrative. We will censor any scientific results, no matter how rigorous, that go against our political narrative. That's what we get. And that's what people are pushing against. And how long can this last? It seems like it's a lot longer than I anticipated this being able to last. That's for darn sure. Here is Macron, who's another WEF young global leader. And I can't show videos right now. It's not going to work. You can go watch this. It's in French. I am not fluent enough to understand what Macron is saying properly. I get a couple of words here and there, but I'm not like, oh yeah, I get what he's saying. Not there yet. But Marty translates for us, and he says, this is too long and verbose to translate. Okay, so he gives you the too long, didn't read. Trust me, he says, this is scary. Macron is setting the stage for even more draconian measures. He's basically saying that the good times are over and that we need to accept what's coming. So that's kind of, yikes, right? That's not so good. It's very interesting when leaders Macron had some big losses in the last little while. He's gotten away with a lot. The French people are trying to assert themselves in different ways. The Yellow Vests, Marine Le Pen, there's all sorts of agitation against this. There's constant marches, etc. And still they're moving forward with the policy. They don't care that the public doesn't like this. They don't care. They're using COVID and they're using climate. And if you become an elected official with power and you say something to the effect of what the Lethbridge mayor says, you will get backlash from global news. But if you shake the wrong hand and you're the wrong person, you'll get backlash from global news. But if you shake the wrong hand of anybody and you're Justin Trudeau, and also wear blackface repeatedly so many times you've lost count, and you're Justin Trudeau, global news will leave you alone. Lethbridge mayor receives backlash for climate change tweet. Oh no! There was an instantaneous reaction. Instantaneous, they say. Instant reaction to the Lethbridge mayor recently tweeting a link from his personal account to an article stating there is no climate emergency. Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news here, global news. They have so many sensational articles. It's incredible. And I'm just trying to show you that if you step out of line as a leader, you will get the press attacking you for your views that don't conform to their version of reality. And isn't that something, right? We live in a society that is ruled by a social credit score, that is pushing a false reality. And if you don't subscribe to that reality, then you are the problem. You are the terrorist that we need to deal with first and foremost. Remember when you don't want the smoking gun to be a mushroom cloud, we've got to go over there so they don't come over here. What happened? What happened? Economically, we are being decimated, absolutely decimated. And what they're telling us is the biggest problem in the world right now is if you have too many questions and you share your theories online, that is the most dangerous thing we can possibly think of. IEDs, no problem. No problem. Terrorism in the Middle East, nope, no problem at all. Afghanistan being taken over by the Taliban, no problem. And honestly, I think that the invasion by other countries into Afghanistan, they should be able to self-govern, unless they're exporting terrorism. But what does that mean? People should be able to self-govern their country, no matter which way we think they should do it. It doesn't matter what we think about their country. That's what I'm saying. And I think that if another country invades you and you try and fight for freedom, and then you gain that freedom, then you should be let to govern your country whichever way you like. And the West shouldn't have a say, and certainly shouldn't be able to invade to bring freedom to your country or whatever. Now, there are certain caveats to that, but that's a longer conversation. I think generally in peacetime, like the 2003 Iraq invasion, that was bullshit. It was built on lies, and it was garbage, and it should never have happened. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. There's situations, possibly World War II, maybe, but even then. Okay, let's get into energy because I'm getting off topic. Radio Geneva says, angry people in Pakistan burn their energy bills, coming soon to Europe. It will be a very hot autumn. People in Europe are already starting to take away the government's ability to take money out of their accounts to pay for energy because of what's going on. Martin says, tragic news, the latest Cornwall Insight prediction based on Ofgem's new methodology is an 81% cap rise in October, taking a typical bill to £3,582 a year, and a further 19% in January to £4,266 a year. Action and planning is needed now. The zombie government needs to wake up sooner than September 5th. So people are responding by removing, Cromwell says, we're stopping our direct debit for gas and electricity, as are two of my neighbors. A small start, but in my opinion, worth it. We will follow Martin Lewis, who's the guy I was just showing you, advice and drag the life out of these robbers. Hold the line. So there are certain triggers that happen. If people don't pay their bills, the energy company gets on the hook, and they're trying to trigger, the people of England are trying to trigger the company being fined for their not paying, if that makes sense. If a certain amount of people do it, blah, 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 blah. It's more robust than the don't buy gas on Tuesdays thing. I don't know if it's going to work. If it does work, watch for the government to say terrorists are organizing to stop paying gas bills in order to disrupt your supply or something to that effect. They will try and blame them for the problems caused by the government's own actions. That's how this works, unfortunately. I wish it wasn't so, but it is so. Here's Michael, and he says, Trudeau keeps telling us there's no business case for light natural gas exports, or liquid natural gas exports, LNG, excuse me. I'd love to see the business case for this fancy, non-existent hydrogen export industry he's so horny about. Yeah, nobody is importing hydrogen. And if you don't know what he's talking about with the LNGs, the idea that Newfoundland can produce natural gas and then export that natural gas for the purpose of creating hydrogen is laughable. It is absolutely ridiculous, because hydrogen, if created through green means, can be a green fuel, maybe. But hydrogen created through natural gas means it's an oil and gas. It's created through oil and gas, just like windmills, just like solar panels, and just like oil and gas. The oil and gas that produces 80% of the world's energy, not just electricity. Fuel like that powers everything, right? And like oil and gas. But solar, wind, electricity doesn't power everything. You see, there's a big difference. And it's a very interesting situation when they're saying we don't have a use case for this. There's no business case. And Brock says, what's the business case for a $600 million corporate media bailout? Is there a business case for that, Justin Trudeau? No, but what's the no business case for the liquid natural gas export in the context of the Russian war? Ridiculous. No business case? Come on. Like Justin Trudeau knows anything about business, right? Food, the Conservative Party of Canada. This has fewer likes than you would expect, considering the position it takes. Despite Canadian farmers' proven track record of environmental leadership, the Liberals are creating instability in our critical food supply chain by setting arbitrary fertilizer reduction targets. Yeah, it's interesting. Conservatives are actually talking about the climate issue. The problem is they follow it up with, conservatives will do it better. We'll do exactly the same climate policy, just better. We'll do it in a way that you won't feel it so much. Yeah, nope. They'll do exactly the same thing because they're the same party, basically. We'll see who wins that leadership race. Regardless, the food professor says the world's largest 4 grain companies are posting record profits amid a global food crisis. The poisoning of, or the blaming of somebody else, a scapegoat is as old a story as time. It always happens. The people in power create a crisis, and then they say, you know who actually did this? Those rich guys over there. So the 4 grain companies in this example are posting record profits. Okay. Are the record profits broken out from the record cost increases? Because if people are looking at, and I don't know what record profits means. I'm hesitant to click on the CBC article to have them explain it to me because I don't trust them and don't believe most of the garbage they put out anyway. So I'll tell you what I'm thinking. In, let's say, 2018, if the grain company was posting a total operating whatever of $11 million, let's say, it's fictional, let's just say it is though, $11 million. And in 2022, they're posting $17 million. And people are saying, look, they're making all that extra money and they're profiteering off you. They want you to blame them, the corporation that's profiteering on your payment to them for making food. They want you to blame them for the increased costs. But they leave out the input costs have gone up by 20% to 50%. The labor costs have gone up by blah, blah. The collective bargaining and this and that. They're vilifying profits because they want you to blame these companies rather than blaming the policies that have increased the inputs that have necessarily increased the overall cost and operating budget of the company, therefore leading to record profits. If the record profits are just the profits broken out, and in 2019 they made $5 million in profits, and in 2022 they made $9 million in profits, with no equal rise in expanding their operation, blah blah blah. Because a company's goal is to grow. A company's goal is to increase their profits year over year, because that's hopefully what a company does, right? But if they're profiteering and it's just naked profits, then maybe there's some conversation to be had. But I don't think so, because most of the time those profits would go back into the business and make it more efficient, make the employees more productive, give them perks that they deserve, blah, 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 all sorts of reasons to let that company manage that money the way that they've been managing the business, because it's obviously profitable and running well. Right? But saying, oh man, I can't believe that you're making profits in 2022. How dare you? Don't you know there's a pandemic? Nah, I'm not going with them for that. I think that that's a ridiculous argument, and I think it's garbage that they want people to be so angry at people who are making our food. That's wrong. I wanted to bring to people's attention other people's experiences crossing the border into Canada on the land borders part. This person went to cross at the land border, and she did not use the ArriveCan app, and she did not get a fine, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. She didn't speak to public health, but she talked to 2 friendly border agents who just basically waved her on. They said, are you coming to talk to Canada Health? And she said, nope. And they said, all right, see you later. And that was that. So just in case you're interested in having that information, it is happening. Some people are getting fines. That's certainly true. So it's not everybody. It's not all the time. But certainly there are people who are getting through without big to-dos, let's say. Viva Fry, let's talk about vaccines and the dead internet, and then we're almost done. Viva Fry says it's going to go from safe and effective, you anti-vaxxer bigot, to Trump's death jab faster than it went from trans women are women to no uteruses, no options. So Viva Fry is talking about how all of a sudden they're trying to blame Donald Trump. Here's Politico. It says the Trump administration pressured the FDA to authorize unproven treatments for COVID-19 and the first COVID-19 vaccines on an accelerated timeline, according to a House report released Wednesday. So they're saying that this COVID-19 debacle of the vaccine is Trump's fault. Right? All of the death and destruction that we're seeing is Trump's fault. And here is the same day that the U.S. government is making that move, making that kind of statement that all of this is Trump's fault. This is released in the UK, a devastating indictment of Sunak of his own government's COVID-19 policy. Lack of any cost-benefit analysis was scandalous, but the discussion of lockdown harms was actively discouraged, even when within the cabinet makes it worse. So it seems like we've hit the point in the timeline where they've realized they've made a mistake. And now they're trying to find somebody to blame. And trying to blame the grain producers for making all that money isn't quite sticking. So they're going to say, it was Trump's fault. Wait a second. It was somebody else's fault. They're desperately trying to find a scapegoat that's going to stick. Let's see if they find it. It's going to be very interesting. Here's a whole thread about the dead internet theory, and the idea being that Google has been dead, and one of these villages, he calls it a Picoto, maybe that's wrong, I can't remember the name of it. Here it is. He says a Pitakeman village is any construction, literal or figurative, whose sole purpose is to provide an external facade to a country which is faring poorly, making people believe that the country is faring better. So Google can't even find 500 things on a search result, never mind billions, right? If you can find 600 things on pancakes, you're beating Google, that's for sure. So is Google and its dying delisted internet, because I don't think the internet is being deleted, although I was watching How It's Made the other day, and we were watching about pencils, and it said, if you want to find out more about how it's made, go to sciencesomething.com/how it's made. And how it's made was picked up by Discovery. And part of the internet is dead theory is that this guy says 96% of Google searches cited in lawsuits prior to 1996 all those links are dead, something to that effect. And hold on, I'll see if I can find it. And now I'm going to pause it because, well, this is how I find things. Hold on. All right, here it is. He says, is there anything grounded in reality to suggest the internet is actually shrinking? Known as internet rot or link rot, studies show that 50% of links cited in court opinions since 1996. I was thinking prior to 1996 doesn't make sense because prior to 1996 there wouldn't be many links. So 50% of links cited in court opinions since 1996, as well as 75% of links in the Harvard Law Review no longer work. So when I went to the How It's Made link, it took me to Discovery Plus and had nothing to do with How It's Made. Had no idea that I was talking about How It's Made. It just took me to the Discovery Plus because somebody in the ownership chain forwarded it to a website that forwarded it to Discovery Plus. So that's an interesting situation, that the links aren't gone. It's not deleted from the internet necessarily, although if the person who runs the server is no longer running the server and shuts down the website, then it's gone. Or if the person who runs the Twitter account deletes the previous tweet or deletes the tweet, it's gone. So these links that legal decisions have been based on, and all of these other links that have had conversations, etc., some of them are gone. Some of them are delisted. One of the things that this thread goes through as well is he's explaining what the dead internet theory is, and he goes through the dead internet theory, talking about how many things are returned, and I can't remember what I was going to say. Anyway, he explains what it is and why it's insidious, but he says, what is it proof of? Like, what can we really do about this? I'm not sure. So he doesn't come up with any conclusions, but he does talk about how, yes, it's happening. Weird, right? So yeah, if you wanted a competitor to Google, man, first million, second million, third million. Mohammed Khan. Yesterday I talked about how, this is the last story for today, by the way. Yesterday I talked about how there was a theory going around in the UK, and I hadn't seen anything like this in Canada, but I don't think Canadians would openly talk about this. But in the UK, they were talking about how most of the migrants are fighting age men. The migrants appear to, they're being put up in hotels. They're saying that there's confirmed training, like military training of these guys. And there's a theory that these guys are the next phase of the UN plan to have foreign troops activate. Apparently I was right with the number, so we'll keep it at Order 59. Thank you very much. Pull in Order 59, and when the time is right, when you see the whites of their eyes and all that, you pull the trigger and become the army that has been funded by taxpayers and barracked within the walls through taxpayers for years. Is that plausible? I don't know, but here's another person, Mohammed Khan, backing up that theory, and he says, until someone can give me a sensible explanation for why nearly every asylum seeker is a young, fit, fighting age man, I will continue to conclude that something very sinister is happening. if you know something sinister is happening, like the delisting of the internet, like your tax dollars going to funding disinformation campaigns against citizens online, like barracksing, I already said that. All of these nefarious. Well, we sent $3 billion to Ukraine. What did we get from that? I talked about that yesterday. If you know your tax dollars are going to this, what are you going to do, right? We can continue to conclude that something sinister is happening, but we are funding it. We are sitting back and allowing it to happen. And I don't know how to stop it, but I do know that it's our responsibility. I do know that there isn't somebody else coming in to fix this. There's nobody else who's going to come in and say, this mess is really getting too out of hand. It's time to clean up. We need to decide ourselves that it's time to clean up, and we need to decide how to do it. And that's not a conspiracy theory. That's just the truth. So, and if you do nothing, that is compliance. That is allowing whatever to happen will happen. And maybe that's what they're banking on. Maybe that's what they're hoping will happen. Maybe they're hoping that people will just continue to allow all of this to transpire. And because they don't know what to do, they won't do anything. And by not doing anything, they're tacitly complying or giving permission. And through that, failing to defend their country and way of life. And over a long enough period of time, we'll lose it. And we won't have any touchstone to get back to what we used to be. And well, I hope that I'm way off on that, but the longer this goes on, the longer it seems like that's the plan. That's enough out of me. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com. Check out CanadaReport.co. Check out Speaking Moistly and all the interviews I do on there. I've got an interview with Chanel Fall that I have to publish, and I haven't published it yet, so sorry about that, Chanel. I'm just busy. Apologies. Busy and on vacation. Oh, my goodness. That's just how it goes, I guess. And that's enough out of me. So thanks for watching, everybody. See you tomorrow. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.